Hello and welcome back to more 2025 to 2026 state governments and officials. Today we are looking at the state of Virginia, which is my state, my home. I love Virginia. There's so much in abundance here. Got its three territories, the coastal region, Tidewater, where it's along the coast, and the little rivers along the Potomac and everything that enter. Then you have the Piedmont, the flatland area, and finally the mountain region, where a great portion of the Appalachians exist. But with that said, let's look at the state itself. Its nickname or nicknames is Old Dominion, or Mother of Presidents. Mother of Presidents because 4 of the first 5 U.S. presidents came from Virginia. Your first your first 5 presidents: Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe. All of them were from Virginia except for number 2, John Adams. So, and then I think even Woodrow Wilson, technically, while he wasn't from Virginia when he became president, was actually born in Virginia. So yeah, its motto is Sic Semper Tyrannis, meaning thus always unto tyrants. Which, if I remember right, is supposed to be a quote from Caesar, the play, where it's like, and they take down the tyrant. But here you see a picture of the state in the middle of the nation. Let me get the cursor out of the way. Yeah. Right there. Capital city is Richmond. The largest city is Virginia Beach. Largest county or equivalent is Fairfax in the north. And the largest metro and urban areas are the Washington, D.C., bordering into Virginia urban area. So a lot of it is that northern area. That's where Fairfax is. That's the Washington metro area, urban area. But Richmond is kind of lower down in the state, and Virginia Beach is on the coast. So, the official name is the Commonwealth of Virginia. One of 4 states in the U.S. that are commonwealths: Virginia, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, and Massachusetts. So yeah, those are our 4 commonwealths in the U.S. It is in the southeastern and mid-Atlantic region of the U.S., between the Atlantic coast and the Appalachian Mountains, bordering Kentucky to the west, Tennessee to the southwest, North Carolina to the south, West Virginia to the northwest, and Maryland to the north. It has a population of 8.8 million, it making it the 12th most populous state but the 15th most densely populated state. So it's still got quite a bit of room. More than 1/3 of the state's population lives in Northern Virginia. Like I said, Fairfax, DC area, that area's got so many people living in it, so yeah. But anyway, that's a look at the state itself. Now, let's go ahead and look at the Constitution of Virginia. If I can get my mouse to act properly. Let's see. Like all state constitutions, it is supreme over the laws and acts of government for the state, and only superseded by the U.S. Constitution and U.S. federal law as per the Supremacy Clause. Out of the original Virginia Constitution of 1776 was enacted at the time of the Declaration by the first 13 states, and Virginia was an early state to adopt its own constitution on June 29, 1776. And the document was widely influential both in the U.S. and abroad. In addition to a multitude of amendments, there have been 6 major subsequent revisions of the Constitution by conventions such as 1830, 1851, 1864, 1870, and 1902, and by commission for 1971 amendments. The new constitutions have been a part of and in reaction to periods of major regional and social upheaval. For instance, the 1902 Constitution included provisions to disenfranchise African Americans, who in 1900 made up nearly 36% of the state's population. They didn't regain suffrage until after the enactment of federal civil rights legislation in the mid-1960s. Yeah, Virginia has a lot of shameful history itself with slavery, with racism, disenfranchising African Americans, as we just talked about, the landmark case that made it possible for interracial couples in the country took place in Virginia. Loving v. Virginia. So, yeah. But yeah, so altogether that's what? 6 constitutions, and the most recent would have been in 1902, although that's what it did has been overturned. But yeah. With that said, let's look at the government of Virginia. It is, as we said, a commonwealth, but it follows the regular model, 3 branches: legislative, judicial, executive. Legislative branch is called the General Assembly, which is a two-chambered body, the upper body being the Senate and the lower body being the House of Delegates. Yep. It's been unique like that for quite a while. It's not a House of Representatives, it's a House of Delegates. The executive branch, you have 3 elected positions: governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general. So, yeah. And the judiciary, all the courts and everything. So, the state capitol building is in Richmond, which was designed by third U.S. President Thomas Jefferson, and the cornerstone laid by Governor Patrick Henry. So many of these big names. There are states like this, and Virginia is one of them, where you have a lot of the big names in American history. Massachusetts has a lot of the big names in American history. New York. So, yeah. But with that said, let's look at the executive branch. All three officers, as I said, governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, are elected to 4-year terms in years following presidential elections. Yeah, we are in off years. President gets elected in 2020, we vote in 2021. Gets elected in 2024, we vote in 2025. And they take office the following year. Virginia is one of only 5 states that elects its state officials in odd number years, with the others being Kentucky, fellow Commonwealth, Louisiana, Mississippi, and New Jersey. So, yeah. The governor, chief executive, and commander-in-chief of the militia here. The governor is not allowed to succeed himself in office, though a governor is allowed to serve multiple non-consecutive terms. The lieutenant governor is actually elected separately from the governor, so it's not like a running mate issue here. You can have governor and lieutenant governor of 2 different parties. But the lieutenant governor does serve as president of the Senate and is first in line to succeed the governor. They are allowed to run for re-election. The Attorney General is chief legal advisor to the governor and the General Assembly, and is the chief lawyer for Virginia and head of the Department of Law in Virginia. They are second in line to succeed the governor. When all 3 offices are vacant, then the Speaker of the Virginia House of Delegates is next in line to be governor. And the current governor is Abigail Spanberger, Lieutenant Governor Ghazala Hashmi, and she is the first Asian American and first Muslim Lieutenant Governor. And the Attorney General is Jay Jones. With that, let's look at these positions. The Governor, Abigail Spanberger. Lieutenant Governor, Ghazala Hashmi. And the Attorney General, we got a picture of you, Jones. Not about the office. We want to know about Jay. Crap. Let's look at the thing here. responsibilities, blah, blah, blah. Well, kind of hope they'd have a thing for us about our Attorney General. Press releases. Maybe we can see it in the press release. No. Anyway, those are the elected executive branch officials. With that, let's look at Abigail Spanberger's cabinet. The chief of staff is Bonnie Krenz Schnerman. The Secretary of the Commonwealth, Candy Munden King. Secretary of Administration, Tracy J. DeShazer. Secretary of Agriculture and Forestry, Katie K. Fraser. Secretary of Commerce and Trade, Carrie H. Chinnery. Secretary of Education, Jeffrey O. Smith. Secretary of Health and Human Services, Marvin Figueroa. Secretary of Finance, Mark D. Sickles. Secretary of Labor, Jessica K. Lumen. Secretary of Natural and Historic Resources, David L. Bulova. Secretary of Public Safety and Homeland Security, Stanley Metter. And Secretary of Transportation, Nick M. Donahue. Secretary of Veterans and Defense Affairs, Major General Timothy P. Williams. Chief Diversity Officer, Sasha Joy Moon. And Counsel to the Governor, Matt McGuire. That's a look at the executive branch for Virginia. Many executive branch agencies have the authority to promulgate regulations, proposals to create or amend state regulations, and are often subject to review by the executive branch. Let's do this now. Residence is the Virginia Executive Mansion. That's where the governor stays, like I said, in Richmond. 4 years is term length. Not eligible for immediate re-election, but can serve non-consecutive terms. So yeah. 3 signatories of the Declaration of Independence served as governor of Virginia, and 3 governors became president of the United States: Thomas Jefferson, James Monroe, and John Tyler was a governor of Virginia and became a president. So yeah. Like I said, a lot of colonial history with Virginia, as is certain states. The only other governors to serve non-consecutive terms in office are Patrick Henry and James Monroe, with George William Smith serving twice as acting governor before becoming official governor. So yeah. To be governor of Virginia, you need to be a citizen of the U.S., at least 30 years of age, and be a resident and a registered voter in the Commonwealth of Virginia for at least 5 years before the election. Now, let's look at the list of governors, starting colonially. 1585 to 1590. A lot of people don't remember the lost colony of Roanoke. They had unsuccessful settlements established under two different governors, while technically they were off the coast of North Carolina, the Outer Banks. Yeah. The governor, Sir Walter Raleigh, Sir Ralph Lane, and John White. Now, we officially get into what is more known as the Virginia history, Company of London Governors, 1607 to 1624, when we get the first official colony that lasts in 1607, Jamestown. You have president of the councils, acting president, president of the councils, Edward Maria Wingfield, John Ratcliffe, Matthew Scrivener, John Smith. Yes, that John Smith, Pocahontas, all that. George Percy, Lord Governor and Captain General Thomas Swell, 3rd Baron de la Warr. And then the list of deputy governors. Then we get crown governors. After the Virginia Company of London lost its proprietary charter, it was taken over by the English crown and became a crown colony. During the interregnum period, the English Civil War, 1649 to 1660, when England came under Commonwealth rule and protectorate rule of Oliver and Richard Cromwell, these governments appointed Virginia's governors. William Berkeley was governor at the time of the execution of King Charles I, remained in office until the arrival of the Commonwealth fleet in 1651, which led to his removal. And of course, Berkeley was returned to office when King Charles II was put into power. Sir Francis Wyatt, Sir George Yeardley, Francis West, Sir John Harvey, John Pott, John West, Colonel George Reed, Francis Wyatt, William Berkeley, and Sir Richard Kemp. So yeah, Commonwealth and Protectorate governors: Richard Bennett, Edward Digges, Samuel Matthews. Crown governors passed the Cromwell rule. This leads us into the American Revolution, is where these governors will lead us. Sir William Berkeley. Francis Morrison was lieutenant governor. We had Herbert Jeffreys, Thomas Culpeper, 2nd Baron Culpeper. Acting Governor Nicholas Spencer. Governor Francis Howard, 5th Baron Howard of Effingham. What a name. Nathaniel Bacon. Sir Edmund Andros, George Hamilton, 1st Earl of Orkney. Lieutenant Governors, Acting Governor Edmund Jennings. Lieutenant President of the Council Robert King Carter. Governor Willem Ann Van Keppel, 2nd Earl of Albemarle. Acting Governor James Blair. Acting Governor John Robinson Sr. Acting Governor Thomas Lee. Acting Governor Lewis Burwell. Governor John Campbell, 4th Earl of Loudon. Governor Jerry Amherst. Governor Norborne Berkeley. Baron of Bodetort. Acting Governor William Nelson. And Governor John Murray, 4th Earl of Dunmore. Now, that brings us into the modern era of governors, starting with it becoming a free state. Your first governor, elected governor for the U.S., was Patrick Henry. Of course, like I said, founding father, give me liberty or give me death. Right there it is. He declared that at the Second Virginia Convention, was the first and 6th governor of Virginia, post-colonial. But yeah, politician, planner, orator. He was followed by 2nd Governor Thomas Jefferson, writer of the Declaration of Independence, 3rd President of the United States, the nation's first United States Secretary of State under Washington, and the nation's 2nd Vice President. So yeah, played a huge role in American history. Number 3, William Fleming, physician, soldier, politician, planner, was a justice of the peace in the mountains of southwestern Virginia and Kentucky, as well as in the Senate of Virginia, and briefly acted as governor of Virginia during the American Revolutionary War. Because remember, during the first 2 or 3 here, the Revolutionary War was still going on. I think it was 1781 when it does end, though, so. But yeah, Fleming only in office for 8 days. Then we get Thomas Nelson Jr. Was a founding father, general in the Revolutionary War, member of the Continental Congress, and a planner in Virginia. Served several terms in the Virginia General Assembly and twice represented Virginia in Congress, the U.S. Congress, where he signed the Declaration. So yeah, Thomas Nelson Jr. He had his vice president, David Jameson, follow him after Nelson Jr. resigns. Short period, 1781 to December 1st, 1781. just a week or so. But he's followed up by Benjamin Harrison the Fifth, American planner, merchant, and politician who was a founding father, served as delegate to the U.S. Continental Congress, and was a signer of the Continental Association and Declaration of Independence. But yeah, served as fifth, sixth if you want to count the fellow we looked at before, David Jameson. So, but anyway, then we get Patrick Henry again. He's followed by Edmund Randolph, another big figure. Founding father, attorney, 7th governor of Virginia, delegate from Virginia in the Constitutional Convention, helping to create the national constitution while serving on its committee of detail. And he was appointed the U.S.'s first. He was one of the original cabinet members under Washington. I can't remember what role he played, but yeah. Because I was like, yeah, this is another big name. That's followed by Beverly Randolph, planner and politician. He led the county militia during the Revolutionary War, served in the Virginia House of Delegates several times, each time representing Cumberland County. So yeah, he's followed by Henry Lee III, part of that famous Lee line. Most people think of Robert E. Lee, but there's so many heroes that he was a part of in that family. And Henry Lee's one of them. Light Horse Harry Lee, you know, it's filled with heroes. But yeah, early American patriot, politician, 9th governor of Virginia, was a representative for Virginia to the U.S. Congress, and he was a cavalry officer in the American Revolution, in the Continental Army, earning him the nickname, so he was likely Light Horse Harry Lee. Let me just go ahead and pop this open right quick. Light Horse Harry Lee. Yeah. Which he is a member of the Lee family of Virginia and father of Robert E. Lee. So, like I said, yeah, a lot of the members of the Lee family were very important in Virginia history, in American history, so. But anyway, after him, we had Robert Brooke. Soldier, planner, lawyer, politician, 10th governor, as well as in the Virginia House of Delegates, was an attorney general of Virginia when he ended up passing away. So, yeah, he's followed by James Wood, officer in the Continental Army during the Revolution, and the 11th governor of Virginia. Was an abolitionist, so he was anti-slavery. He's followed by James Monroe, another president. Founding father, was 5th president of the U.S. from 1817 to 1825, and the last founding father to serve as president, as well as the last president of the Virginia dynasty. Like I said, remember, 4 of the first 5 were Virginians. But yeah, James Monroe. He's followed by John Page. We'll just start naming them off here. William H. Cabell. John Tyler Sr. Oh. Became 15th governor of Virginia. His father was President John Tyler. Or is it his father or his son? He was the father of John Tyler, so it was his son. George William Smith, Monroe again, George William Smith again, Peyton Randolph, another big name. Politician, served as acting governor for several days at the end of 1811 and the beginning of 1812. So remember, the War of 1812, Britain basically came back because we were saying, hey, you can't just take our settlers. And then Britain's like, screw you. You wanted to be on your own. This is what you get, and kicked us in the balls. So, yeah. James Barber. William Carey Nicholas. James Patton Preston. Thomas Mann Rudolph Jr. James Pleasance. John Tyler, 10th President of the United States. William Branch Giles, John Floyd, Littleton Waller Tazewell, likely who Tazewell County in Virginia is named after. Wyndham Robertson, David Campbell, Thomas Walker Gilmer, John M. Patton, John Rutherford, John Munford Gregory, James McDowell, William Smith, John B. Floyd, Joseph Johnson, Henry A. Wise, who is the namesake of the county I'm from. And after him, we get into the Civil War. Well, not directly into it. It's 1861, but he's part of that Civil War presidency. John Letcher. I wonder if he's based on Letcher County in Kentucky, because it's right across the border. So, interesting. William Smith. And then we get a Union governor, Francis Harrison Pierpont, military governor Henry H. Wells, Gilbert Carlton Walker, and then he became a Republican. And then we get back to Democrat, James L. Kemper, Frederick W. M. Holliday, William E. Cameron, a readjuster party, I guess. Interesting. Fitzhugh Lee, Philip W. McKinney, Charles Triplett O'Farrell, James Hodge Tyler, Andrew Jackson Montague, Claude A. Swanson, William Hodges Mann, Henry Carter Stewart, Westmoreland Davis, Elbert Lee Trinkle, Harry F. Byrd. Is it his son that led West Virginia and became that long-lasting senator? It might have been. John Garland Pollard, George C. Peary, James Hubert Price, Colgate Darden, William M. Tuck, John S. Battle, Thomas B. Stanley, J. Lindsay Almond, Albertus Harrison, Mills Godwin, and then we get a Republican for the first time in a long time, Linwood Holton. I have a book about him because he's from this same region in the state I'm from, so interesting. Then we get Mills Godwin again, so he goes from being a Democrat to a Republican. Then we get John N. Dalton. Then we'll get Chuck Robb, Gerald Belials, and Douglas Wilder, 3 straight Democrats. And then we go Republican again, George Allen, Jim Gilmore, and Democrat Mark Warner, Tim Kaine, Republican Bob McDonnell, Democrat Terry McAuliffe, Ralph Northam, Republican Glenn Youngkin, and the newly elected Democrat Abigail Spanberger. So yeah, at the end here, there's a lot of for governor, both parties. For a long time, though, it was very much a Democrat state. Because, again, remember, early Democrats were pro-slavery, unfortunately. Now, let's look at the legislative branch. Its actual name is the General Assembly, and has a Senate and a House of Delegates. In the Senate, 40 members. And in the House of Delegates, 140 representatives. They meet in the capital city of Richmond. It's presided, the House of Delegates is presided over by the Speaker of the House, while the Senate is presided over by the Lieutenant Governor. House and Senate each elect a clerk and sergeant at arms. So, but yeah, with that, let's look a little further at the legislature. Did I just click regular legislature instead of Virginia legislature? By God, I did, didn't I? Now, the Virginia General Assembly. Two-chambered Senate, House of Delegates. Your current Senate President, Lieutenant Governor Ghazala Hashmi, then Senate President pro tempore is L. Louis Lucas, while your House Speaker is Don Scott. Now, in the Senate, there are 40 members with a current balance right now, 21 Democrats to 19 Republicans. So, not quite down the middle, but pretty damn close. In the House of Delegates, it's a lot more blue. There are 100 seats, 64 Democrats, and 36 Republicans. So 140 seats altogether in the Assembly. I read that wrong a little earlier there. Senate members serve 4-year terms, while House of Delegate members serve 2 years. Democrats have held a majority of seats in both the House and the Senate for the first time in 96, following the 2019 election. They were sworn into office on January 8th, 2020, In 2021, the Republicans captured a majority in the House, then lost it in 2023, when the Democratic Party secured majorities in both chambers of the General Assembly. So yeah, a lot of people think Virginia is a very blue state, but it's kind of centrist. Now, it does lean blue in a lot of its tendencies though. So yeah. Senators and delegates must be 21 years of age at the time of election, residents of the district they represent, and qualified to vote for members of the General Assembly. If they move the residents from the district for which he is elected, they shall thereby vacate the office. So, yeah. The governor can call special sessions, of course, when, in his opinion, the interests of the Commonwealth may require. But yeah, that's a look at the state legislature. Now, let's go to the judiciary. It is defined under the Constitution and law of Virginia and is composed of the Supreme Court of Virginia, the subordinate courts, including the Court of Appeals, the circuit courts, and general district courts. Because I didn't get these opened up here. We're doing that now. And general district courts. The administration is headed by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, the Judicial Council, and the Committee on District Courts, the Judicial Conferences, and various other officers. But let's go ahead and dig into the judiciary a little bit more. Like we said, Supreme Court, highest court, Court of Appeals, circuit courts, district courts. There's also Juvenile and Domestic Relations Court. But it's a low-level court dealing with domestic matters heard by a single judge. And it involves juvenile crime, child abuse, child neglect. So I won't really open it up. Now, let's start at the top here with the Virginia Supreme Court. Been around since 1779. The only way to appeal is up to the Supreme Court of the U.S. from there. Highest court in Virginia, and here's direct appeals in civil cases from trial level city and county circuit courts, as well as the criminal law, family law, and administrative law cases that are initially appealed to the Court of Appeals of Virginia. It is one of the oldest continuously active judicial bodies in the United States. It actually did serve as a model for the United States Supreme Court, which actually first convened in Williamsburg. On the Virginia Supreme Court actually convened in Williamsburg on August 30th, 1779, and then shortly thereafter was moved to Richmond and held its sessions in the Henrico County Courthouse. It possesses both original and appellate jurisdiction. Its original jurisdiction is limited to cases of habeas corpus, mandamus, prohibition, and writs of actual innocence based on DNA and other biological evidence. It also has original jurisdiction in matters filed by the Judicial Inquiry and Review Commission relating to judicial censure, retirement, and removal of judges. Appeals are taken directly to the Virginia Supreme Court in most civil cases tried by circuit courts. However, the Court of Appeals has intermediary jurisdiction over appeals in domestic relations cases, including divorce and annulment, child custody, and child and spousal support, and thus also has intermediate jurisdiction over appeals from administrative agencies and worker compensation commission. So yeah, most appeals to the Supreme Court are discretionary, meaning the court has the authority to decide whether to hear the appeal. Let's see. Court appoints a clerk, an executive secretary, a court reporter, a chief staff attorney, and a state law librarian, all of whom serve at the pleasure of the court. The justices on the Virginia Supreme Court are Chief Justice Cleo Powell, with Associate Justices D. Arthur Kelsey, Stephen R. McCullough, Teresa M. Chafin, Wesley G. Russell Jr., Thomas P. Mann, Junius P. Fulton III. 7 members. So yeah, a Chief Justice and 6 associates. Now, let's take a look at the Virginia Court of Appeals. They are elected to 8-year terms. I didn't see for the Supreme Court any notification of if they're elected or not. There are 17 members of the Court of Appeals. The Intermediate Appeals Court. Litigants can now appeal as a right a lower court's decision in civil cases, and the Supreme Court of Virginia will retain the power to select which appeals it hears. Criminal defendants can now appeal as a right of the lower court's decision in criminal cases, but the Commonwealth will still need to petition the Court of Appeals if it wishes to appeal a decision in the criminal case. The Court of Appeals now has jurisdiction to hear interlocutory appeals and petitions for the review of injunctions. Let's see. Current composition, your list of judges. You have Chief Judge Maria Graf Decker, and then Randolph A. Bills, Mary Grace O'Brien, Richard Y. Atlee Jr., Mary B. Malvo, Clay Affey, Daniel E. Ortez, Doris Henderson Causey, Frank K. Friedman, Bernita R. Cheney, Stuart A. Raphael, Lisa M. Lorish, Dominique A. Callens, Kimberly S. White, Stephen C. Frucci, David Bernard, and Kevin M. Ruffin. So yeah, the Virginia Court of Appeals. That brings us to the next one, the circuit courts. They are the state trial courts of general jurisdiction, and have jurisdiction to hear civil and criminal cases. The civil cases, they have an authority to try cases with an amount in controversy of more than 4,500, and exclusive original jurisdiction over claims of more than 25,000. In criminal matters, they are the trial courts for all felony charges and for misdemeanors originally charged there. So yeah, they also have appellate jurisdiction for any cases coming from the Virginia district courts. So yeah, trial courts of a limited jurisdiction in Virginia. So yeah, it's the higher end, more high profile cases and stuff. Litigation is initiated by the filing of a complaint, which is then served on the defendant with a summons pursuant to the rules governing service process in Virginia. Responding to complainant, demurrer, special pleas, the answer, non-trial resolutions. Summary judgments, rules specific to the circuit court, discovery and trial. So either party may seek discovery on any topic that is relevant to subject matter involved in the pending action, irrespective of whether the discovered materials would be admissible at trial, or even whether they are calculated to lead to admissible information. Because you want to understand how things came about. It hears appeals from, like we said, the district courts on civil matters in excess of $50 and for all criminal and traffic cases. Cases thus appealed are retried de novo because the general district courts do not generate a record to be reviewed. So yeah, the appellant or appellant in the circuit court will then be entitled to a jury trial, even if they are not entitled to one in the general district courts. Appeals from the circuit court, of course, we talked about already. And that brings us finally to the general district courts. Lowest level, the court that most Virginians have contact with, and the jurisdiction is generally limited to traffic cases and other misdemeanors. Civil cases involving amounts of under $25,000. There are a total of 32 general district court districts, each having at least one judge, and each having a clerk of the court and a courthouse with courtroom facilities. They are not courts of record, meaning they do not keep detailed records of their proceedings, and their decisions provide no precedent to be cited in other proceedings. They do not conduct jury trials. Cases are heard and decided by a judge. And in civil cases, they are only empowered to award legal damages and generally cannot provide remedies in equity, such as injunctions or declaratory judgments. In trial, past trial motions, appealing it up. So yeah, original jurisdiction, low-level cases. But yeah, that will be the end of that video. It's been a heck of a long one, but I kind of enjoyed it because it's, like I said, my own state. I thought it was kind of interesting, so. But with that, we'll go ahead and end the video. As always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting my sources and links in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.